When people think of World War I, they often picture endless trenches, gas masks, and brutal stalemates across muddy fields. But buried within that chaos were countless acts of human ingenuity, tricks, hacks, and survival methods that turned hopeless situations into livable conditions. Soldiers didn't have luxury gear or modern tech. What they had were rations, scraps, and sheer willpower. And from that came some of the most effective survival solutions ever recorded, many of which still apply perfectly to off-grid living and modern prepping. These weren't just battlefield improvisations, they were lessons in endurance, adaptability, and practical resilience forged under the harshest conditions imaginable. The trenches were a laboratory of survival. Life in the trenches forced soldiers to become resourceful fast. There were no supermarkets, no fresh water taps, and no safe shelters. A soldier's rations often froze in winter, their boots rotted in the mud, and even a small wound could turn deadly without quick action. Survival wasn't a theory, it was a daily, desperate necessity. That's where ingenuity flourished. British, French and German troops alike developed ways to preserve food, purify water and create warmth using almost nothing. A tin can, a bit of grease or an old uniform could become life-saving equipment. What makes these hacks fascinating isn't their simplicity, it's their practicality. Many of them are still relevant today for anyone preparing for emergencies, off-grid survival, or long-term field living. Soldiers learned to turn waste into life-saving fuel. In a war where supply lines were constantly broken, soldiers couldn't rely on endless coal or wood for heat. So they improvised. One of the most effective hacks to emerge was the trench candle, or Tommy cooker. Soldiers would melt leftover animal fat or grease from their rations, mix it with sawdust or shredded paper, and pack it into an empty tin. When lit, it produced a slow, steady flame that could last for hours, enough to heat food, dry socks, or provide light inside a dugout. What's incredible about this method is how easy it is to replicate. For modern preppers, this same trick works perfectly using leftover cooking oil or wax. Mix the fuel with any fibrous filler, cotton scraps, cardboard or dry moss, and you've got a portable, long-lasting heat source. It's proof that waste can become a survival asset. The trick wasn't just the materials, it was the understanding of how to balance fuel and airflow for maximum burn time. Soldiers quickly learned to punch small holes near the top of their makeshift stoves to allow just enough oxygen to keep the flame efficient and smokeless. Clean water was a battle fought every single day. If the cold didn't kill you in the trenches, the water might. Standing water mixed with waste and decay created a breeding ground for disease. Soldiers who drank from contaminated sources often fell ill faster than bullets could find them. But out of that danger came some of the earliest portable water purification methods. Troops began using improvised filtration systems. They would dig small holes near puddles or streams, allowing the water to seep through soil and sand naturally before collecting it. This reduced visible impurities and, combined with boiling, made the water much safer. Later, British engineers developed small cloth filters treated with charcoal, which soldiers carried in tins. These acted as early versions of modern water filters. For preppers today, this principle remains vital. A simple two-step system, filtration through soil or charcoal, followed by boiling, is still one of the most reliable ways to make water safe when resources are, a bit limited. The science hasn't changed in 100 years, only the tools have become smaller. Preservation became an art when fresh food was a luxury. Rations during World War I were built to last, not to taste. Hardtack biscuits, dried meats and tinned vegetables filled soldiers' packs. But those with longer postings learned to extend even that limited supply through creative preservation. Salt was the main tool, but soldiers also discovered that fat could seal and protect food from air and moisture. A common trench practice was to submerge cooked meat in melted fat or grease, creating a natural airtight barrier once cooled. This was an adaptation of a much older preservation method known as confit, and it kept meat edible for weeks without refrigeration. Soldiers also smoked or dried any extra meat they could scavenge, using trench stoves or smouldering fires to create low, steady heat. Modern preppers can take this same approach. Fat-based preservation works as well today as it did in 1916. Whether sealing meat, vegetables, or even bread in oil or lard, the key is to remove moisture and block oxygen. These methods require no electricity, just care and patience. Two things soldiers had plenty of time to master between battles. The soldiers' clothing tricks are still survival essentials. Keeping dry was life or death. A soaked uniform could lead to hypothermia within hours. Since proper waterproof materials were scarce, soldiers developed makeshift treatments that doubled as insulation and weatherproofing. They would rub animal fat, wax, or a mixture of oil and ash into fabric, effectively sealing it from moisture. Some even melted candle wax into the seams of boots and coats, creating a crude but effective water barrier. Interestingly, the same principle later inspired commercial oilskin and wax canvas gear used by outdoorsmen and sailors. For modern survivalists, a blend of beeswax and boiled linseed oil applied to canvas or cotton cloth can still make for excellent rain protection. It's not fancy, it's functional. And like those trench soldiers, it could mean the difference between comfort and cold exposure in a crisis. World War I medics faced horrific wounds, but honestly, their day-to-day battle was with infection. Sterile environments were impossible, so they turned to natural antiseptics. Soldiers were issued iodine and carbolic soap, but when supplies ran out, they used what they had: garlic poultices, honey dressings, and saltwater washes. All were crude but effective, harnessing natural antibacterial properties that, remain valid even today. For preppers, these same remedies are powerful backups when modern medicine is unavailable. Honey's hydrogen peroxide content prevents bacterial growth. Salt water cleans wounds. Garlic and vinegar offer antimicrobial benefits. These weren't myths. They were proven, practical medicine born from desperation. The forgotten ingenuity of the trenches still teaches us to adapt. The soldiers of World War I weren't survivalists by choice. They became them by necessity. Their hacks weren't glamorous, but, they worked under the harshest conditions imaginable. From purifying water and preserving food to waterproofing gear and creating light, these methods show that the foundation of modern preparedness was laid not by scientists in labs, but by ordinary men surviving in mud and darkness. For serious history enthusiasts and preppers alike, revisiting these forgotten lessons is more than nostalgia. It's a reminder that true resilience doesn't rely on high-tech gear or endless supplies. It comes from creativity, patience, and the ability to make use of what's at hand. If you found this dive into forgotten wartime ingenuity valuable, make sure to subscribe to Echoes of Valor and share this video with others who appreciate real, usable history. The next time the world tests your preparedness, remember the men in the trenches who survived with nothing but willpower and a tin can.